Hello, everybody, and welcome to FourWheelTech for June 15th, 2025. It's Season 2, Episode 24. It's a time machine episode, and I am MayorWatt. I run ohmTown, and along with the Sentient AI from the future, we normally talk about 5 articles, but it's just me today. And we're going to talk about Cadillac Optiq, 9 myths about EVs, hidden automotive gems, F-150 Lobo, and why French cars had yellow lights. Everything's powered by ohmTown.com. Go over and sign up, sign in. There's no advertising. There's no spam emails or texts or anything that come out of ohmTown. So if anything is contacting you, it's probably because you requested a password reset or something like that. Go over there, check it all out. There's no noise, just news. And all the news is getting aggregated into 6 categories, 50 channels, as you can see there. See all of those? And then we talk about some of it here on FourWheelTech. Prior to this was TechnologyToday, and then before that was WarCrafters, and on Saturday is RealityHacker, and then Wanted, and then the Continuity Report, and then Monday through Friday is Non Sequitur News, where we talk about 10 articles across all of ohmTown. Whole bunch of news, all of it powered by ohmTown. Okay. That was weird. Welcome back. I'm not exactly sure what just happened. Anyway, if you want today's show notes, they're already embedded over on YouTube's live stream, but here on Twitch, they delete stuff. So we only post them via ohmTown. And if you want them, you can hit !FWT. I'll do it once. The first one is free. ohmTown spits out the articles in the order that we're going over them. It's not like a top 5 or anything like that. It's just 5 interesting articles that people have submitted, or I have selected, or the Sentient AI from the future has submitted. So let's get into the first one. By the way, this is the front page of ohmTown, but this is the one for FourWheelTech. We're actually going to be creating, or I should say, I'm creating a new logo for each of the different channels. This one just happens to be a lug wrench. If you want to go on and head over to ohmTown.com and then just search for FourWheelTech, you'll find it. Go check it out. That said, first article is about the Cadillac Optiq V, or 5. Hits 60 in 3.5 seconds in case the regular Optiq is too slow for you. So if you like the idea of the Optiq, but wish it had more power, there's finally an option for you, the 2026 Cadillac Optiq 5. So Colin Woodard over at jalopnik.com put the article together. Instead of a dual motor setup that makes 300 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque, you get a similar all-wheel drive setup that makes 519 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. According to Cadillac, that's enough power to shoot the Optiq 5 to 60 in only 3.5 seconds. And you won't be hanging with the Corvette ZR1 owners at the drag strip, but still, that's a seriously quick little crossover. So, what is this thing, actually? So according to Cadillac, this thing can corner too, offering tighter steering, enhanced suspension, optional summer tires only, as well as standard Brembo front brakes that provide consistent fade-resistant performance during spirited driving. 21-inch wheels, only 275 miles range out of an 85 kilowatt-hour battery. So you get to go 80% of that standard. You'll never get 100% of 275 miles. So it starts with a 3. So if you insist that your EV starts with a 3, you're out of luck, is what it says here. But it's still only 25 miles shorter than 300. So you can only go 150 miles, okay? So at 60, you can go about 2.5 hours drive, which I guess is fine for most people, but then you'll have to stop and sit around for 4 hours, hoping that you get back to 80% in that time frame. the Optiq V or 5, I don't even know what its real designation is, does cost more at $68,000. It takes that to get into the Ioniq 5N, but there's isn't quite as much price difference as you might think. $1,500 destination charge included. You're looking at a starting price of $70,290. That's a whole lot of money, but then again, 650 pound-feet of torque is also a whole lot of torque, and it's instant on. Is that really the end of that article? Wow. So, yeah, this thing is interesting. The Optiq 5, it says, does cost more than the $68,000 to get into the Ioniq 5N, which is the sportier, faster version of the Ioniq 5. So only 70,000, but interesting. It is a crossover, but it looks more closer to an SUV in its shape than a crossover, but it must be just a little bit less than that in its height. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still never going to get into a 275, even 300. If you're going to tempt somebody to get an EV, get an EREV, extended range EV, that has a little gas motor, gas engine. So engines are gas, motors are electric. So gas engine. That is what you'll want. You'll want an EREV because you can get 600 plus miles out of a tank. So, and it charges itself. So you don't have to worry about having to sit around for 4 hours waiting for it to charge, although you can charge it as well. Anyway, let's keep on going. And I was really curious about this when it was submitted. 9 myths about electric vehicles have taken hold. A new study shows how many people fall for them. More people believe misinformation about electric vehicles than disagree with it, and even EV owners tend to believe the myths, our new research shows. So let's find out what these myths are. Gabby Clark and Andrew Zenin put the article together via editing and review, but it was written by Christian Breder, Matthew Hornsey, and Samuel Pearson from The Conversation, which is like an extended wing, it seems, of techexplore.com. So they investigated the prevalence of misinformation about EVs in 4 countries: Australia, the US, Germany, Austria. Unfortunately, we found substantial agreement with misinformation across all of the countries. People who endorse false claims about EVs were, not surprisingly, significantly less likely to consider buying one. So let's see what we found. To tally the test results, we looked at participants, more than 36,000 responses in all. Of the 36,000, 36% were in agreement with a statement and 23 were in disagreement. A further 24 were undecided and 17 did not know. So what do they talk about? The most widely believed myth was that electric vehicles are more likely to catch fire than petrol vehicles. Okay. Really weird. What a weird question, though. But I guess agreement with Mr. I was really curious about how is this question posed, though? In an accident, is a petrol vehicle or an electric vehicle more likely to catch fire? Interesting. So agreement with misinformation was strongly correlated with a lack of support for electric vehicle policies and lack of intention to buy an EV in the future. A separate part of the research involved 2,100 people in the US, about half of whom owned an electric vehicle. Surprisingly, EV owners did not significantly differ in their agreement with this misinformation compared to non-owners. They say it's not about education, which all of these arguments where they say it's not about this or not about that is complete bullshit. The strongest predictor was people who scored highly on conspiracy mentality. In other words, they believed conspiracies were common in society. They saw the world through a lens of corruption and secret agendas and distrusted institutions. Correlation is probably not causation. I'm sorry, I don't agree with this. I just don't buy into that. I think it is about education, because if you refer enough factual information that's reinforced by strong provenance of the information, nobody's going to believe that an EV is more likely to catch fire in an accident. The only time an electric vehicle is going to catch fire is if the battery is pierced, and it happens to react, and then you have a runaway. And then it is worse than a gas fire, a petrol vehicle fire, because you can't put that stuff out conventionally. You have to inundate it with foam and water and a particular type so that it suppresses any chance of it reacting with the air. And it costs tens of thousands of gallons of water to do that. So they say it's not about education, but what are the other questions? Misinformation was the highest. I'm really curious. Also examine the factors that make individuals more susceptible to EV misinformation, but I think that's correlation, not causation. A person's scientific knowledge or level of education was not a predictor. These findings align with previous research and suggest that pervasive endorsement of misinformation stems from distrust in institutions and expertise rather than from a lack of education. But then they tested whether misinformation could be reduced with 2 interventions among a different sample of U.S. participants. And one of the group was asked to converse with ChatGPT about their views on EV misinformation. The second was asked to read a traditional EV fact sheet from the U.S. Department of Energy. And on a third control group, no intervention was tested. Those who interacted with ChatGPT or the fact sheet before they surveyed showed significantly lower endorsement of EV misinformation compared to the control group. This persisted at follow-up sessions 10 days after the survey. ChatGPT did not produce any misinformation about EVs, and the results build upon existing research demonstrating ChatGPT's potential to reduce endorsement of conspiracy theories. Hate to break it to you, but conspiracy theory is the only thing that makes conspiracy a theory is the lack of evidence, and it's usually the conspiracy suppressing the information that makes it possible to label something as conspiracy theory. I think it's an inflammatory term, particularly in an in a science-based article. It's kind of interesting, particularly in the particular societal climate of the United States. So this suggests a dual strategy is needed to reduce misinformation. And I agree, misinformation is the problem. But in a world where the provenance of information is questionable at best, I'm sorry, you're going to run into some resistance. But I guess we'll have to see, if things get worse. So I don't know. Let's keep moving, though. The next article is over in Technology Today. Review. These 5 vehicles are hidden automotive gems. There are some new cars that shoppers tend to overlook when they have a lot to offer, even though they have a lot to offer. These hidden gems boast a special combination of attractive qualities and can potentially make excellent choices to savvy folks who want their ride to stand out from the sea of mainstream vehicles. So let's go take a look. It's over at Tech Explorer. Michael Cantu wrote the article. It was edited by Andrew Zenin. For whatever reason, I kind of dig this kind of either matte gray or even this glossy gray is pretty neat. This is the Hyundai 2025 Ioniq 6, and this is one of the cars that I've actually been looking at, except that it is an EV, pure EV, not EREV. But it's starting at $40,000, which is respectable, and has 342 miles of estimated range. But heat and cold and weight and going up a freaking hill and all of that kind of stuff, and then you have to sit around to watch it charge, is always going to keep me from buying a pure EV. It's just not going to happen. I hate the idea of just being absolutely dead in the water, because it's not like somebody can show up and fast swap your battery if you die on the side of the road because the tank is dry, and nobody can show up with a 5-gallon jerry can of gasoline and pour it into your car and off you go again. No, it just doesn't work that way. It's so frustrating. I've been looking at the Honda Ridgeline as well, because I want a truck feature as well as 4-door feature, and I love the idea of this Ridgeline. it's basically a little bit bigger than a Mini. It seems like to me, not the same footprint. I mean, it obviously is longer, but it seems like it's pretty chill, like short, small, nimble vehicle. Ridgeline's towing capacity is certainly good enough for most uses, such as pulling a small camper trailer or a toy hauler. I would love to be able to do that. It also has clever features like a lockable in-bed trunk and a tailgate that folds down or swings to the side. And it's a bed that's large enough for a 4-foot wide sheet without resting them on the wheel wells, which is awesome, because then you have to build a platform. Otherwise, no matter what you do, it ends up bowing. It's a big pain in the butt. Anyway, so I'm going to look at the Ridgeline again, because I either get an EREV or I get something that is even more utilitarian than the vehicle that I have right now. And I don't have a Honda Ridgeline, so I want a truck of some sort, but I want it with 4 doors, and I don't want it to be a massive F-150, and I don't want to go into debt to own another vehicle. This is crazy. And I would love to be able to tow a small trailer. All right, so it has a starting price of $42,000, roughly. Depends on where you are, really. Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. Pardon me. Third row folded down. The Outlander offers a lot of cargo space. The pure electric range is 38 miles. When the battery runs low, you'll get a respectable 26 miles combined. If you charge regularly, trips to the gas station will be rare thanks to the Outlander's lengthy 38 mile. I think it's longer than that. Hold on a second. Let me make sure that this thing is... Outlander range. Let's find out for sure. Yeah. 420 miles of combined range, all electric range of 38 miles on a full charge. So in hybrid mode, it has a combined 64 miles per gallon. So it's actually 420 miles. So this is weird. They kind of derped that number. All right. So Toyota Crown, $43,000 car. Inside the Crown has a pleasing interior, large display screen, spacious seating, comfortable ride, 340 horsepower. It's an optional hybrid max engine if you want that. It's a hybrid. Base engine is a fuel sipper that gets an EPA 41 miles per gallon. Pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. Genesis, although it's $42,000. So if you want a Toyota Crown, this is a Genesis G90 up here in this picture. Let me see. Yeah, that right there is the Toyota 2025 Crown. I've never seen that. Not in the US at least. Then the Genesis G90 has everything you want in a large, lavish sedan except for brand cachet. Genesis is still relatively new, although I don't know. People are kind of digging the Genesis and equating it to a more luxury type vehicle. Starts at $91,000, so it better be. The top-end 3.5T E supercharger version doesn't offer any optional features because it comes equipped with many features, including many that usually cost thousands more than they would on a luxury rival. The most notable front and rear massaging seats, 26-speaker Bang & Olufsen audio system, a massive package of advanced driver aids. Never mind. Anyway, and the air suspension that scans the road ahead so that it can adjust to road imperfections, which I think is pretty amazing. All right, let's keep going. The next vehicle or the next article is exactly what I was talking about. FourWheelTech 2025 Ford F-150 Lobo has aggressive looks and lower rear suspension, but no extra power from its 5-liter V8. Hot on the heels of the badass Maverick, Lobo compact street truck, Ford announced the 2025 F-150 Lobo, which is mainly an appearance package. So let's take a look at it. I don't know. That just looks boring to me. Standard kind of truck to me. It looks like a work truck to me. But anyway, didn't gain any additional power. So Opting for the Lobo package will add $5,000 to the price of the STX trim F-150, so the cheapest 2025 F-150 Lobo you can buy starts at $60,000, including a $2,200 destination and delivery charge. Considering the equipment included in that price, most of which are extra cost exception or options on the STX trim F-150s, is not a bad deal, so long as dealers don't mark up prices, okay, greedy bastards. And they say that it's just the start package. Lobos will have a Super Crew cab with 4 full doors, a 5.5 foot bed, and the package includes 2-speed automatic 4-wheel drive system, rear suspension that is 2 inches lower than standard, a new dual exhaust, and the naturally aspirated V8 that produces 400 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque. Gains 10-piece body kit, reworked upper and lower grills, a unique light bar, a vented cowl hood. Today I was driving and there was a procession that cut through traffic in a massive intersection, and they had no designation that they were a procession. And people were pissed, including me. I had no idea that it was a procession until I passed the first half of the procession, because there were no designations on there. This is kind of a non sequitur news segment, but it was just weird. There were no designations on this thing. And the reason why I thought of it is because of all of this modification to the vehicle. You'd think that somebody would put a flag up on it, but no, nobody did. It was weird. I don't know. Anyway, F-150 Lobos will be available in 5 paint colors: agate black metallic, Atlas blue metallic, carbonized gray, Oxford white, rapid red, metallic tinted clear coat. And it's just the start, they say. I don't know if these two pictures, one is the Ranger and one is I think that's the Ranger, and that's the F-150 Lobo. Unless that is not a F-150. No way. Anyway. So there you go, folks. And let's move on to the last article. This last article is over in FourWheelTech as well. The reason French cars had yellow headlights for decades. The article is over at Jalopnik. Brad Brunel. Did I say the last name? Logan K. Carter put the article together for that last Jalopnik article about the F-150 Lobo. But this article, the reason French cars had yellow headlights for decades, is by Brad Brunel over at jalopnik.com. So for the years 1937 and 1993, the French government required all cars sold in the country to have selective yellow lights for all forward-facing roadway illumination. With borders touching 9 other European nations, a handful of significant automakers based within its borders, and a driving population numbering in the tens of millions, France has historically had a lot of influence on the driving world. Millions of cars were affected by this rule from the French, but why was it instituted in the first place? Well, according to France, the reasoning for yellow lights was to reduce glare and eyeball fatigue in night driving conditions. While many municipalities were more focused on increasing visibility for a lone driver, France wanted to make sure oncoming traffic didn't get dazzled by brighter lights and glare. Supporting its case for switching to yellow lights in 1937, France claimed that the uncredited local study found an 8% increase in visual acuity at night with a yellow selective filter, in spite of the 15% decrease in total light output. Anyway, 31 years later, took 31 years for a British road research laboratory that debunked it, concluding that the yellow light only contributed 2.5% loss in visual acuity. It contributed to a 2.5% loss in visual acuity, in probably combined because of the 8% increase in visual acuity, but a 15% decrease in total light output. Maybe. When the light lost in the filter was made up by increasing the power of the lamp, visual acuity was found to be about 3% higher in the yellow light than in the white light. Perhaps out of typical French stubbornness, the law remained in place for an additional 25 years. So now it's legacy, I guess it says here. With the law in place in the French books for decades, it's been enshrined in modern sports car racing as something of a vestigial rule. 24-hour Le Mans is the most important race in the sport's car calendar around the world, and being based in France, once required all of the cars to follow similar headlight rules to France's road cars. Dun, dun, dun. Well, thanks, Brad. Go and check out the rest of this article. It's over at Cadillac Optiq, and it's titled "The Reason French Cars Had Yellow Lights." By the way, you can actually find this article really quick. If we talk about it and you don't get to the link, but you go, oh, I remember talking somewhere in ohmTown about the reason why French cars have had yellow lights. You could just type in that little segment of the title and our search engine will actually find it within our library. So you can then just click on the link. It'll take you to that page just like it just did. And then you can click on visit the source and it'll take you to that page. So, yep, that's one of the newer features over at ohmTown. So I am going to change out the light bulbs and that'll bring us back to FourWheelTech. And I'm going to be calling it a night. I'm going to try and do the Non Sequitur news, get back in the time. I have to shut down the time machine, let it cool off, and then I have to get back in it to do the Non Sequitur news for Monday the 16th. But I'm running behind, got mayoral duties. I may have to bow out, but we'll see. Let's see what we can do. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you very much for hanging out, and we'll see you technically. Time machine episode ending means tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow.